Hey everyone, Mira Raven, and welcome to Magifest Interviews. I hope everyone's doing well tonight. If you are joining us for the first time, say hello. If you're here again and you're coming back again, say hello. We're really happy to have on yet another amazing guest. So, without further ado, let's get started. All right. Hello, everyone. And if you are joining us and you're in the chat, say hello, say what's up. I'm excited for our guest today. We're having Milan Perry. She is a world renowned wellness chef with an extensive background in nutrition, wellness, and herbalism. She is the Culinary Nutrition and Wellness Chef of Chic Women Don't Diet Culinary and Wellness Program. She went from working as a commercial print model, which emphasized focusing on self, to reinventing herself, to focusing on the inner beauty that starts with our health, our well being, and the quality of food we eat. As a holistic coach, her mission is to help women rise above their challenges by guiding them through life's transitions with tools like cooking classes, lectures about healthy living, and personalized health coaching. She has been featured in publications such as Natural Awakening Chicago, the American Cancer Society, and over 40 females What Women Want. So she's been in all of these things. She's an amazing person, very accomplished, has an amazing YouTube channel, and I just an absolute beautiful woman. So I'm excited to have her on. So let's bring her on. Hello, my dear. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Good. It is so lovely to have you on today. And I just kind of wanted to, just for people who are still getting to know you, I wanted to ask you, how did you come to go from being a print model to, what was sort of your journey, kind of through, wellness and what sort of came first? So was the print model thing first, and then you sort of that from there, what led you to sort of go down this path?
Yes, so I was a print model for several years, and along with being a print model, I was working for FedEx, FedEx Express, and I was there for 18 years. And between the two, the model kept me in that sort of a feminine um, position and kept me where I was always thinking about myself. But then the FedEx element of work made me, I feel, bring out a little bit more of that masculine energy.
Mm-hmm.
So over a period of time with the two, I just noticed how one of them was not really helping my body to prosper and to flourish and be the best that I could be, and that was FedEx. So in taking my leave from that company after 18 years, I also took my leave from the modeling as well. I just felt that to focus more on myself internally was a lot better than focusing on the external. Not that I don't love to, but the most important is how I feel inside.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that that's really important because I think there's a lot of people that can relate to this feeling of feeling like it sounds like you were, like most of us, you were sort of in the rat race, in the sort of struggle of like, oh, like I have to make money, but maybe this is something I want to do? Or
Hmm.
was the print modeling thing, was that something that you aspired to be like a model, or was it something that you did just because, maybe you had a talent for it, or um yeah.
Well, I consider myself, which leads to a lot of with the transition that I've made, even up until now in the reinvention. Growing up, I was a very creative child. I was always either writing plays, trying to look for a way to perform my play, singing and talent shows. So I was always a very creative child, and I just wanted to continue with that transformation, that creative side of me. So moving into the from the modeling to something else is just, for me, it was just a natural transition from one thing to the next thing.
Ah, yeah. So it sounds like you kind of just, you are, and I can relate to this sort of, maybe, you know, do you feel that you get, kind of get bored easily, or like, you work on something and then it's like, oh, on to something else?
You know, actually, that's funny. There were moments when I do get bored, and even sometimes now I always joke to my husband, say I think I have adult ADD. But it's when you're creative, you can be all over the place. You are, um, even once you establish what you're doing, you can still find yourself all over the place because there's so many things you want to do. I have a acoustic guitar. I would love to play the thing. So you're just always finding something else that you want to do,
Yeah.
and just staying focused is, of course, is always a challenge for any entrepreneur. Even anyone who's reinventing themselves or making a transition, is just a challenge to stay focused. And I think once I realized my gift and my rhythm after transitioning from the being a professional model to the health and wellness industry, to the culinary industry, hospitality, I just found it, one sort of married onto the other one, because even though I may not be still be modeling professionally, but elements of that life is still with me. I'm still very concerned about how things look, how things appear. When it comes to food and plating, I'm very conscious of how something looks aesthetically on a plate, how many beautiful colors are on your white canvas, your plate. So I'm always taking elements of what I did even into what I do now. So I don't, even though I'm not doing that anymore and being paid for that, I still am doing other creative things that sort of marries from that.
Did you have any in your process, because again, I do want to, because I think, again, like a lot of people have this sort of, they maybe they have an idea of certain things that they want to do, or certain things that they, directions they want to go. Or I know, and again, if anybody's listening right now and this relates to you, holler in the comments right now, because I know that there are some people that, are sort of on the cusp of going into a journey similar to you've experienced, of sort of finding their inner light and what's really out there for them. And do you have any sort of advice or experiences that you felt really helped pull you through? I mean, was there any uncertainty that you had when you were like, okay, when you quit something and then it's like you're looking for the next thing and trying to find your way? What was sort of, what allowed you to find that way? Like, find what your thing was? Like, was it a lot of trial and error, or did it just pop out to you? I mean, how did you sort of find that?
I wish it would have just popped out to me. So the way it happened for me, I find that um, who we are internally, who we are, is what makes what we want to do. So I was already a creative. I was already a model. Um, and of course, I had a very hectic life with working as a FedEx employee, so it was very stressful. But at the same time, I thrived on moving, and I thrived on doing constantly doing something, meeting new people. And when I was even as a FedEx employee, I was always meeting new people, new customers, working in different locations. So I was used to doing something different, even though it was the same job. So for someone trying to make a transition to figure out what it is they want to do, maybe as an entrepreneur, even like myself, when I transitioned from that to where I am now, I feel that in the beginning, I knew what I wanted to do in terms of the health and wellness. After leaving the modeling and leaving FedEx, I knew I wanted to go into health and wellness because at the time, my grandmother, she's no longer with me, but my grandmother was, her health was declining. I also have a friend with heart disease. Heart disease runs in my family and from the women. And I knew that I needed to take better care of myself. I wanted to try and help my family. I wanted to try and help my friend who also has heart disease. And I realized that the health and wellness piece was important. So as I started to learn more about that, because of always on the go and the FedEx driver and the modeling, always being focused on how I look, which meant I wasn't really eating right. So going into the health and wellness, it was really like a no-brainer for me. And once I got into that, I realized that a lot of women who maybe are trying to live a healthy lifestyle, they could be on pharmaceuticals. And a lot of my clients have not been on pharmaceuticals, but I could get clients who were on pharmaceuticals. So I wanted to help them transition from um, pharmaceuticals to maybe integrating something a little bit more natural, which is when the herbalism came into play. And then in time, I realized who am to separate myself from every other health coach, every other or the dietitians out there, the nutritionists out there. I needed to do something else that I enjoy, and I loved cooking. I was okay with cooking in my early years before culinary school, but after culinary schools, I really just opened up my eyes to the world of hospitality and the world of culinary. And I just one day woke up and realized that I was I was watching a lot of other people through social media. And I was watching health coaches, I was watching chefs, but I couldn't marry all of my gifts. I couldn't marry my talents together because I was watching so many other people do their thing. And I needed to stop. So I stopped watching other people. I unsubscribed to a lot of people. I just stopped watching a lot of health coaches. If they were friends of mine, I just, said, I'm sorry, I have to let you go. And I just moved away from watching other people doing what they were doing because I needed to draw in, and I needed to listen to my voice. I needed to understand how I spoke. I needed to understand how I moved in the world. And I love chic things. I love very classy things. I love, the opera. I love, theater. So I love doing classy things. I speak French. I speak English fluently. So I needed to bring that together. So the first thing that I did, which I recommend anyone to do, is I just started investing in myself. And which is why I love when women invest in me, because that shows that they're ready to level up and how they dine at home. So I invested in myself. I knew there was something that I couldn't do. I didn't know anything about, building a brand on social media. I didn't know anything about building a brand and what that's like for me. So I had to invest in a coach to show me how to do that. And once I started investing in coaching, I continued to do it because I find as a businesswoman and entrepreneur that we're not employed by someone. So we don't get the training that an employee gets. We have to pay for our training. And my training comes by way of investing in myself. And it's always an investment in myself because I learned to be better, to do better. And so when it came about to that slowly, the transitioning, the more I invested in myself, all the pieces of the puzzle just sort of came together, from being the chef to I've worked in hospitality. So I've did things along the way before I was a full-time entrepreneur. I've did things along the way that would give me training, but that paid for that. I didn't have to pay for it. They paid me because I was one of their employees. So I've worked in hospitality, and they gave me the training that I needed to run my own cooking classes. I've worked for a cooking school, high-end cooking school in Chicago, so I know how to run my own cooking classes. I know how people enjoy being catered to, so that lends towards a hospitality piece. The herbs, I just find that when we're cooking and dining at home, we have to integrate that piece. There's so many elements of how we eat that's missing. So I just found a way to bring all of those elements together and marry them so that my brand as a wellness and culinary coach would stand out, and it would be manifest to everyone that sees it. Oh, she's, definitely about, healthy living and healthy lifestyle and taking care of the inner person. So it just all blends together.
That is so beautiful. It's like a meal. Like what I'm hearing is like I'm hearing what you just said. Like I'm thinking of like this like wonderful meal, because when you create a meal, that's creative, and you're taking all these different elements and making something together. And so it was kind of a meta moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, she's a chef, but then she's also talking about bringing together all these elements to make something amazing, which is what you are. And I think that also what you had said before about sort of creating creating your own sort of training program. And I think that this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs maybe don't think of. And I think it's genius, the fact that you were very strategic about what things you did that kind of set you up. Now, maybe some of it was just, happenstance or whatever, and you kind of just were you leaned towards certain things. But then it also sounds like some of it was, maybe you were aware of like, okay, I'm gonna do this. I don't know what I want to do yet. Maybe you didn't see the big picture yet, but you were like, okay, I know this is something I like, and that
Mm-hmm.
it was something that you could use. You took that and use that as leverage to really get to a
Mm-hmm.
place of self sufficiency and self reliance. And I think that
Exactly.
a lot of us, I think when you're thinking, oh my God, I want to be entrepreneur, but I don't want to sacrifice the security, or I'm afraid to just quit my job because then I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the thing that's really genius about what you just said was that, you know, I think it's a better idea to sort of think strategically about, okay, if you know you want to be in this industry or that industry, then do work in that industry,
Mm-hmm.
learn, and allow
Mm-hmm.
that to sort of be your apprenticeship. And
Mm-hmm.
then you will feel much more confident going and doing things on your own than trying to just quit your job with no plan and no sort of way to make that transition in a way that's really smooth. Um,
Exactly.
so
Exactly. I,
yeah.
I, I totally agree with that. And that's exactly what I did and what I recommend to anyone to do is that you sometimes we look at some things with, oh, I don't want to work there. But if it's something that you want to do, like I knew the hospitality and culinary industry is where I wanted to be. But at the same time, I knew I never wanted to work in a restaurant. Um, I wanted to be at a cooking school. I wanted to be at a high-end cooking school. I wanted to set up sort of a boutique lifestyle business. And so I knew working at a high-end cooking school would be my key to help me to transition into what I wanted to do ultimately. And working at a high-end um, coffee shop, working at a spa. So all of those things kind of put me back into that self-care mode of being and learning from them, watching them how they ran their business. And I was always focused on how they ran their business. How does a small business owner run her business? What does she do? What does she care about? What's important to her? And what are the systems that she have in place? So watching all of that in terms of the investment piece and myself and hiring coaches, hiring a confidence coach, someone who I saw who was confident, someone, and coming from a model, someone may think, well, why would you need to hire a confidence coach? And you are already confident. But there are things that happen in our life. There are transitions that happen that throws us off track, that makes us feel less confident, that makes us start to eat things that we shouldn't eat, start to gravitate to foods that aren't really good to us because of a lack of confidence. So when we build that confidence back up, we start to feel better. We start to look better. We start to take better care of ourselves inwardly and externally. So when you have something that you want to do, something that you feel motivated to, you have to start investing. And rather jumping in all at once is good for someone. I don't know. That's a personal decision. I didn't immediately jump in. I always had something else on the side to supplement in case it didn't work. But then I had to ask myself later, after the investing in myself, after hiring coaches, why don't I believe this is going to work? Why don't I believe this is going to work? Why do I doubt myself? And the minute I stopped doubting myself, doubting my Heavenly Father's ability to take care of my needs and take care of things that I wanted, I'm like, why do I doubt him? If I'm not doubting myself, why am I doubting him to do it? So I mentally, um, once I dived in, mentally whole soul, then the rest just came about. Then I didn't have to look for students for my cooking class. I didn't have to look for clients if I wanted to do dinner parties, because I still love working as a personal chef. I love a party, and what better way to have a party is to be the chef of a party. So I still enjoy doing that, and but I love teaching. So I love my cooking classes, and so I don't recommend anyone to just dive right in 100%. If you can dive right in 100%, but be strategic, like you said, and just have. If you don't have a plan, you have to hire someone to give you direction. So along the way, I hired a marketing coach. I hired a Facebook ads specialist. I hired a confidence coach. I hired someone to help me with branding. Whatever social media and how to work this one, how to work. So I was always investing in myself. So when my students were ready, I was ready for them. So the whole bringing the culinary and food, it's an art. It's an art to be able to get into your kitchen. It's an art to be able to make sure the kitchen's not a mess, which is why a lot of women don't like cooking, because the kitchen is a mess and they're like, oh, I don't want to do that. I'd rather just dine out, or they don't know what they're doing. So when I invested in myself, I didn't know what I was doing. I needed to learn this dance, so to speak. And that's the same dance that I teach my students in my cooking courses, is to learn the dance. There's a dance in the kitchen, and there's a dance in getting in and getting out. There's a dance in making sure that your food looks pleasing to the eye, smells amazing, where you enjoy cooking. So everything is my dance in life is the dance that I give my students when they're working with me.
That's beautiful. That is so great. And it makes me want to sort of get a little bit more into, dig a little bit deeper into the Chic Women Don't Diet program. And because from what we were talking about before, when I was, talking to you a little bit before this, I remember when you were telling me about it, I was like, this is so amazing. This is so cool. And I love I love the whole perspective that you have. It's a different perspective on dieting. So can you tell us a little bit about your program, Chic Women Don't Diet?
Yes. So the Chic Women Don't Diet program, it is based on the idea that a lot of countries, European countries, they don't diet. And a lot of my philosophies were based on a book that I read many years ago, and I still love the book, which was French Women Don't Get Fat. And I sort of had this epiphany after reading that book. And I realized that a lot of women in the Eastern countries, they don't They don't diet. They enjoy food, but yet they still keep their weight down. And over the years, once I started eating in a certain way, I stopped the dieting because I used to being a model. Of course, I had to sort of diet and restrict myself from certain foods. But once I got into the mode of you can eat that, there's nothing wrong with this. I don't label anything as bad. I consider everything as food, unless it comes in a package, and I'm not really sure about that. But everything is food for me. And when you're enjoying food, when you're enjoying fresh food, food that's in season, fresh vegetables, new vegetables, vegetables that are colorful. When you're dressed a certain way, you go into the grocery store, you say, "Oh, I don't know what I'm going to cook today." What are you wearing? I'm wearing this beautiful fuchsia blouse. What is it in the market that I can buy? That's the color of my blouse. Okay, now I bought that. What can I do with it? So, um, the Chic Women Don't Diet is based on the idea that you can eat well, but at the same time, learning to eat quality foods, foods that are good for you, whole foods. Not saying that you have to shop at Whole Foods, but quality foods, whole foods that are in their whole nature, foods that you know what's in your refrigerator, you know exactly what to do with it. And you don't have to diet. When you're eating in moderation, when you're drinking in moderation, when you understand the beauty of food and the medicinal purposes of it, medicinal purposes of wine, you can eat in moderation. You don't have to restrict yourself. You don't have to say, can I have that? You can have it because there is no, I can eat this. It's not about willpower anymore. It's just about enjoying life and enjoying the beauty of what life brings. And being able to enjoy food without the guilt behind it.
Yeah, yeah, and I feel like that is something that, especially in America, I think it's definitely part of our culture that we're constantly, and there's like a whole industry, right? There's the dieting industry, which
Hmm.
basically keeps people in this cycle of sort of dieting. Then they go back to, and it serves the dieting industry in that it keeps them kind of like the pharmaceutical industry. They
Hmm.
want to keep people, like the dieting industry in a way kind of keeps people fat in the same way that the big pharma keeps people sick,
Right.
so that they have to keep getting the products. But I think the thing about with your program is that it's honest and it's
Hmm.
authentic and it's coming from a place of true wellness, not sort
Hmm.
of this fad, diet sort of thing
Hmm.
of like, no, it's built for it's like sustainable, right? It's something that
Right.
you can sustain for the rest of your life. It's like once you learn how to enjoy your food, and it's more of a lifestyle, right, than a
Exactly.
diet is what it
Right. It's
sounds
a
like.
lifestyle. And you can take this lifestyle anywhere because when you're on a diet, you can go to another city, you can go to another country, and you feel that I can't eat that because I'm on a diet, which means you're restricting yourself from something that could be good for you. You could be restricting yourself from an amazing experience. And when you are eating in moderation, you're eating according to the signals that your body gives you because your body is always letting you know how you feel. Your body is always letting you know when you're satiated. Your body is letting you know when you've had too much. Your body's letting you know if something doesn't agree with you, maybe through flatulence or you get that little feeling in your chest. So your body knows you're getting that where the food gets stuck in your throat. So your body is letting you know you're doing something incorrectly to me and I need you to stop. But we ignore that. So after that, because we ignore it, we start having these issues with our digestive system. And then we go to pharmaceuticals to fix us. When if we just go back to food and figure out what is going on, what food can I eat? What food am I intolerant to? How can I make food better for myself and my own household? Because a lot of times when we dine out, and even food that we buy in the store that's prepackaged is loaded with one or two things, lots of sodium or lots of fat. Well, fat is flavor, so you need fat. And then the sodium is to make the food pop, is to make the food The flavors of the food come through, the taste of the food comes through. It's that seasoning. So when you buy prepackaged food, it's always in excess. It's too much. But when you do it yourself, you learn the quality of good oils. You learn which oils to use for high quality cooking. You learn how to cook like some of your favorite restaurants that are high end restaurants, that are quality restaurants, or even just to bring all of your dining up to a high end. So instead of always going out to a high end restaurant, you can learn to cook high end at your own home. And that's what I teach my clients, to level up level in how you cook at home. You don't have to go out to a high end restaurant. Even when you go out to a restaurant to eat, they're putting in a lot of sodium because it's based on their taste. So if there's someone who's preparing a certain side or entree in the back of the house and they're heavy handed on salt, you're going to get a lot of salt in your food. But if you're doing it yourself, one thing that you do to your food that no one else in the world can do, unless you have an amazing chef, is bring love to your food. And a lot of times when food doesn't turn out right, food is not cooked to our um, to what we like, is monotonous, it's not as colorful, it's not as flavorful, it's because we're not putting love in it. And through the Chic Women Don't Diet programs, I teach my students how to infuse love into everything that you do, everything that you make at home, because everything that we do, who we are, it all starts in the kitchen first. Before we leave the house, where are we located? We're in the kitchen trying to make breakfast. We're back in the kitchen for lunch, for dinner. So everything that we do, how we feel, if we don't start right in the kitchen, how we feel, the effect will happen later on. So everything that we do must start in a loving atmosphere, in that food, which is why Chic Women Don't Diet. The food is such a huge, important element of the whole how we feel, how we look element. Because Chic Women don't diet, classy women we don't diet. We look for high quality food, and we look for food that would make us feel good.
Yeah. And it reminds me of that quote, let food be thy medicine. And that's sort of the philosophy that I hear behind this, is that, that food, I mean, and I can say in my own experience, everything that you've just said really attests to the experiences I've had in my own, journey with food, of, finding foods that work for my body, and finding foods, and it was a long journey of sort of finding the foods that, one, that my body liked, but also foods that I enjoyed. And I went through phases where I was vegan, and then I went through phases where, at some point my body said that, okay, we need meat, and I had to listen to that, because I really didn't want to listen to it for a while because of other things that other people said and other influences. But when it
Mm-hmm.
came down to it, when I tried these different things and tried them a different way, I'll give you an example. Like, meat was something that I really wasn't crazy about, and just didn't like the taste for. But I realized that it wasn't that I didn't like the taste of meat. It was that the way that it had been prepared when I was growing up, it was not to my liking. Maybe it was to,
Mm-hmm.
my mom. She did it the way that she wanted to do it or whatever. And so when I started making it myself, and exploring ways that that I could make it work,
Mm-hmm.
for me, not only did I enjoy it, but my body really reacted to it in a positive way, and I was able to see, oh, this is actually not a problem for me, but this other thing that I didn't think was a problem, actually that's the problem. So it was sort of this whole process of finding, you know, what worked for my body and what allowed me to feel the way I want to feel. And I think that a lot of people, they don't put a lot of consideration into what they eat and how, like, how much it can affect everything, because it literally all does. You said this already. It all starts with food. Like,
Hmm.
that is your fuel. That is what is going to affect the rest of your cells,
Hmm.
your organs, and the nutrition and the quality of that food is going to be heavily impacted by the food. So I think that it's one of the things that we have control over. We don't have a lot of control over our environment. To an extent we do, but there's certain things within the environment that we can't control, and other people and other things that other people do, but we can control what we put into our bodies. That's
Exactly.
totally within our sphere of control, which means that we have a lot of power, and there's a lot of power in that.
Exactly.
Do you find that what do you find is the hardest thing when you're working with women who are sort of used to this dieting process, as well as sort of just the standard American diet? How do you sort of get them to come to terms with, not, of course, not making them feel bad about the food that they eat, because that's not what I'm hearing in this philosophy that you have, but instead maybe being more mindful about the quality of the food that they eat? How do you sort of you know
I do find that I there's this thing about when you're transitioning to something in particular, you have to recognize and be conscious of who um, gives you energy. Because just as I bring my clients energy and they get joy from working with me, I also have to be selective in who I work with and who brings me joy, because my talent and my love for what I'm doing will definitely come through. So I'm very cautious on, or I should say, I'm a little picky on who I choose to work with. So I don't tell anyone they should stop doing something. I think food is very personal for many people. And if someone is looking to find their way, picky eaters, I find that my business just doesn't thrive with picky eaters. So the Chic Women Don't Diet program is designed for women who are open to different types of food, who are open to expanding their palate, who are open to trying cultural foods, who are open to, who are just not picky eaters. I used to be one. I think a lot of young girls grow up as sort of a picky eater, and you go through your teen years where you become picky. And I've been vegan, I've been vegetarian, I've been raw vegan, I've been pescatarian, omnivore. Um, I've been everything. And just like you, I got to a point where I said, enough is enough. I just need to enjoy food. And being a chef, I've been exposed to a lot of different types of cuisines, and from French, Italian, and um, uh, Latin cuisine. And I just came to realize that the women that I work with, there are women who love cuisine. They're not picky about it. And for the African American community, I think is very important to, um, when we are growing, to grow. So if you are growing in your career, you have grown in your travels, you have grown in places and countries you've visited, you have grown in your business, you have grown in your career. Food is the next step. We have to grow in that as well. Because if you're still cooking the way your mother cooked and you haven't up leveled along with everything else, then there's a problem. So my clients are women who have up leveled and they're now ready to take another phase. They're ready to up level in how they dine. When you're very picky, and I don't like this, I don't like that, I'm 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 not the coach. I'm just not the coach for them. I'm the coach for the woman who loves food and loves culture, loves trying different, wants to try more foods in the plant-based kingdom. I really try to infuse a lot of plant-based foods, more fresh vegetables, from whether it be from Brussels sprouts or pumpkin or all the orange, the reds, the greens, and the purples in the market. So those are the type of women who work with me, the women who I love wine. They're the women who want to learn more about wine, to be more balanced in how to consume wine, to be a classy wine drinker. So um, I just find that eating is a choice, and we have to get to a point where we make a choice if we're ready to up level how we dine or not. And we can stay the same or we can change.
And I think that that kind of mindset to food goes really well or pairs really well with a mindset to life, right? So it's like
Mm-hmm.
there are some people, and we all know those people, and maybe even some of us have been those people at some point, where we're very narrow minded in
Mm-hmm.
sort of, oh, well, I can't go any further than what I know or what I've experienced, and anything that's not what I've experienced is bad, or I don't want anything to do with it. But I think that, to have that sort of, as you're saying, if you're expanding yourself, if you are looking for expansion, if you're living in expansion and abundance, then then you naturally, it's going to make you want to open up and see what there is out there,
Mm-hmm.
and see, and having a sort of, well, what is that like? And instead of saying it's good or bad, rather saying, huh, this is a different taste. This is a
Exactly.
different kind of experience.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of saying good or bad, focusing less on that and focusing on, well, what is, I worked with a cheese company for a while. This was, very high quality cheeses, made in Wisconsin, and artisan cheeses. And when I was working there, I really developed a palate for different types of cheeses. And I mean, it just really, I did a lot of research on, cheeses and the different regions. And it's actually really cool, tasting these different cheeses, and the subtleties from
Mm-hmm.
each region. And I just remember thinking it's so cool that all cheese is like three ingredients, and then time, and for the fermentation process, and similar to wine, right? There's
Mm-hmm.
different flavors in different regions, and it's all subtle stuff. But when you start to really get into being more mindful in the way that you eat food or consume,
Mm-hmm.
food, and high quality products, you can tell these sort of differences.
Of
So that
course.
so that brings me to, I also want to kind of ask a little bit, about, about herbalism, and sort of how does that play a role, in the wellness component of your coaching.
Herbalism plays a huge, huge role. And there are, I watch, I'm I'm an avid people watcher. I watch people eat. I watch, I watch when I'm with family cook. Um, and one of the things I notice is that when it comes to herbs are all one or two things, either they're culinary or medicinal. And a lot of the culinary herbs are medicinal. So, in order to reap the benefits from the medicinal herbs uh, feature, the when they're combined together, there's more synergy in all of them. So you get the full effects of them. Being an herbalist allowed me to understand that when it comes to working with fresh herbs, especially in the culinary world, there's a time where you add them in. A lot of people have a lot of dried herbs in their cabinet, which I don't personally recommend that. I love spices and I love adding in lots of spices, but when it comes to herbs, they must be fresh because you want the potency of the herbs. And if you're buying a lot of dried herbs, then you lose that potency because one, they've sat on the shelf, and also by the time you get them home, they sit in your cabinet for months. So you're losing the potency and the efficacy of the herbs. But when you buy them fresh, you get the medicinal benefits. You still get the freshness of it. Um, in my course, you also learn how to use a chef's knife, so you understand how not to destroy the herbs and the medicinal qualities of the herbs, and it helps to bring it, know when to add them and knowing when to add them in. So I find that being an herbalist has helped me to understand not just herbs, but the spices and what it brings to food, and how a lot of these countries that are part of the Mediterranean have um, stayed healthy, that don't have the illnesses and the disunity in their body that the Western world does. So just recognizing the role herbs and culinary as well as medicinal play in food, and making sure that I bring that in to my food, so that not only will there be taste, but there'll be texture, there'll be flavor. So there's those elements that I'm always looking forward to bring it in through the culinary and the medicinal aspects of the herbs.
What are some of the top, what would you, if you had to sort of give your top five medicinal herbs, are there any herb powerhouses that you really like to cook with frequently, or even maybe one in there that is a little more less well known, but, maybe underrated?
hmm so I would say some of my favorites would be, um, I mean, because I love so many. I love the spices, which always keeps me leaning towards the Thai spices, and that would be the turmeric, the coriander, the oregano, because they're antimicrobial, antibacterial, anti-inflammatory. So those herbs, I always run out of those. I always run out of paprika. I always run out of the oregano. And fresh, not just dried. I use both, but there's a time when I use one and when I use the other. But I also love some of the other herbs of the sumac, some of the Israeli and the Middle Eastern herbs of spices, parsley. Parsley is loaded with medicinal qualities. It's also one of those herbs that reduces um, inflammation in the intestinal tract. It helps to remove some of the bloating that you have in your body. So I'm always looking at what is the medicinal quality that it does. And one of the things that I've noticed in my own life, um, integrating more plant-based foods and more herbs and more cultural foods of the Mediterranean. Because sometimes we think Mediterranean, we just stop at France and Italy, but the Mediterranean is so vast, from Croatia, parts of Israel and Lebanon. So there's so many countries that are on the borderline of the in the Mediterranean. So pulling from spices and herbs from those countries, and it allows my food to take on its own taste. And those foods, what I've found in the spices and the herbs, I've reduced menopausal symptoms in my own body. So I used to have, when I first hit menopause, just hot flashes galore. I just felt like I was about to burst into a flame. But the more I ate certain spices, certain foods and cuisines using certain spices of a certain region, then I found that the heat in my body started to diminish. Not that I've gotten rid of it. I don't think there's some uh, things that happen in a woman's body, you just can't completely get rid of it, but to minimize the effects and how you feel when you have it. So that is some of the things that I've learned in my own personal case. And I found that clients in my cooking class are usually women who are over 40, and they have been experiencing some of the same things that, oh, I notice I don't have hot flashes like I did before. So the medicinal qualities is certainly evident. And when I'm cooking and teaching my students how to cook, is very manifest.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like I'm definitely somebody who I love herbs and spices too, and I agree with you what you said earlier about fresh herbs. I've had people before that would, have cooked at other people's houses or whatever and use, was like, oh yeah, did a recipe with somebody one time, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll just use the dry one, even though it calls for fresh. And I was like, really? I'm thinking that's what's gonna make it like really pop. Like I feel like the
Hmm.
dried herbs just
It
I
doesn't do
don't
it.
use a lot of dried herbs myself either because they just you're right. It's not it just doesn't give you that flavor. Whereas when you have the fresh in there, it
Hmm.
just really and it's just I love the experience of it. One of my favorite I've been getting really into Ethiopian cuisine,
Mm.
and berbere is one of those like one of those blends that I think it's like 17 different spices
Mm.
or something. I don't know if you're familiar with any Ethiopian cuisine. I feel like you probably will have you are probably.
You know what's interesting? I love a lot of cuisines, but that is one I have not gotten into.
Oh, I think you would really like it.
There I my condo is open space, so I'm always cautious of certain cuisines because they're very aromatic and
Mhm.
the spices, and I don't want certain aromatic spices and herbs to linger in my home. So some cuisines I just don't cook with for that reason. And then at the same time, I feel that if you learn to cook everything, where's the experience in dining out? So for me, dining out is an experience. So when I dine out, there are certain foods I would just rather dine out and have. So I would rather just experience Ethiopian cuisine when I dine out. Lebanese cuisine, I really prefer to dine out for a Lebanese Israeli cuisine. So some cuisines I feel stay with the culture and let me enjoy it through an authentic
Yeah,
feel.
totally. Yeah, there's an amazing restaurant called Demera. It's on Broadway in Lawrence, and the food is just I don't know. It just maybe it just East African food. It just tastes like home to me, even though I'm not saying that I'm Ethiopian, but there's just something about the
Hmm.
spices.
It's
It's a
very
mix
warming.
between yeah, it's a mix between like a curry. It's like a mix between Indian food and Thai food, in that
Okay.
you have these like the flavors are just really. It's like sweet, but also kind of savory, but
Savory.
also like a little bit of spice, but again, most berbere are it's not super spicy. It's
Hmm.
got like I think cinnamon. Uh, well, they do have their own version of curry as well, but they have like the berbere is I think cinnamon. I think maybe there's a little bit of clove. There's paprika. There's some I think there's a certain kind of basil, and then there's some other things that are like specific Ethiopian
Hmm.
spices. But I just find the food is it's
Hmm.
very it's not like other African food. It's kind of got its own distinct
Hmm. That's
flavor.
beautiful. And
So
when you combine herbs and spices, um, you get more of the medicinal quality. You get the synergy that they bring. So sometimes I think we've become a culture of looking for this one pharmaceutical to do this one thing. But yet, when it comes to herbs, a combination of them or spices, that's what creates the medicinal properties because your body can have an imbalance, and the herbs help to uh, bring together what your body needs in order to relieve that inflammation or relieve whether it be inflammation in the hands or in the knees. Those herbs together, the synergy of them helps to start that healing effect in the body. So you um, don't feel as off. So I think that's the beauty about the herbs. And when you learn to up level how you cook and do it really well, before it becomes an experience, you learn. I teach my students the cuisines of each regions, the
mm,
cultures, the spices of different regions. Because when you learn the spices of a region, you can cook anything. So instead of going out for Latin cuisine, if you know the spices of and the herbs of the Latin cuisine, from the cilantro to the curry, the not the curry, but the cumin. Once you learn the spices, you can make anything. French cuisine, same thing with the dill and the tarragon. Once you learn the spices, the herbs, you can cook anything French. And then there's a matter of the techniques, learning techniques from the braising, the sauteing, the pan frying, the searing, the roasting, when to do one, how to do the other, what is the best way to get in and get out where you're not cooking all day, what is the right heat temperature. So once you learn techniques, once you learn spices and herbs, the sky is the limit. If you want Asian cuisine, you want Latin cuisine, you want um, Ethiopian cuisine, learning the spices. Now you know the techniques. You can cook that. You don't, one day maybe you don't want to go out, but you say, oh, I want to try to make this in my own home. I want to try to make this for myself. Now you know because you know the techniques, you know the spices. And I think that's the beauty of cooking. It becomes an experience. Just recently, my husband, he works downtown, and he brought something home that he had for his lunch. And he's like, oh, he's like, you have to taste this. So I'm like, oh, great. So I would love to taste it. So I took a piece on my spoon and I put it in my mouth and I slowly tasted it. He says, hurry up, eat it. And I said, that's not the enjoyment of food. The enjoyment of food is the tasting first, to allow all your olfactory glands to come into play. You're tasting it, and then you swallow it. The experience of enjoying food, is in the mouth. And then afterward, of course, your body reaps the benefits, but the whole experience of the dining starts from the nose to your throat. And we have to be mindful and step into that part of the dining experience. And that's one of the things that why my cooking programs, they're part wellness, but part culinary, because the whole wellness piece is being mindful, the tasting experience, learning the different notes in wines and the spices and the herbs. Once you learn them, you are able to dine anywhere and identify what you're eating. You're able to dine at home and to be able to duplicate what you just had when you dined out, and dine out if you only choose to, not because you have to.
Oh, wow. You are like selling me on this program. I feel like anybody who is listening at this point, you are probably in the same place that I am, and that why haven't we been eating like this forever? Like, this is how people, this is like a revolutionary approach, because it's really, again, like we were saying, it's different than it's not just like a dieting program. It's a lifestyle, it's a
Mhm.
way of living. And I think that if there's so many women out there, women, and I mean, we're talking a lot about women, but I mean, this obviously can affect men and can apply to men, because they're people too, and they, they eat food too. But women, we tend to be the ones generally doing the cooking in the kitchen, and making food for our, spouses or significant others. And so I think that this whole way of life, I think, really just it I can imagine so many women who would go through this program and have gone through this program see changes not only in themselves internally, but because those changes happen within themselves, that affects, that kind of ripples into their lives, I would
Mhm.
imagine. um
Of course,
yeah.
because I, my creative outlet, my wherever my client is missing an element of creativity, they become more creative afterwards. If they've always worn monotone colors, all of a sudden they start wearing more colorful clothes. They start, if they neglected wearing their makeup, because we're all in masks and they're sitting at home and working in pajamas or sweatpants or yoga pants, then after the program, they start feeling better and they start doing more to themselves, because the whole chic experience, the culinary experience of hospitality, wellness, and cuisine, I gave that to them. So that I just, in essence, said, this is my gift to you. I want you to enjoy life like this. This is what I'm giving you. And they accept that gift and they move on and they apply it in whatever aspect of their life. So I love it. I think that food is a connection. It draws people, it draws communities. People, you want, when you cook an amazing meal, you want to share it. You want to show it off. So you start taking pictures and you're sending it to people. And all of a sudden, everyone wants to eat at your home, eat with you, your family. One of my previous courses, it was always funny to me because once we would finish cooking, it's a hands-on culinary experience. So we're cooking together. You're going through the course, and every week you get a link to my Zoom. So you have your grocery list, you have everything you need before the class, and everything about that week that we're doing leading up to it, whether it be poaching or braising. I'm talking about it, what it means, how it affects your food. So you're getting all these videos about that. And then the day of the class, you're learning more. You've already learned about it. Your mind is open. Now you're ready for the experience. And once you come into the class, you are cooking with me. I'm explaining you, I'm teaching you what this is. So you're learning the science behind stuff, not just, oh, let me just cook this. Because sometimes we just cook something because maybe a cookbook told us how to do it. You don't know the science behind it. So you can never walk away and duplicate it. You have to go back and look at the book again because you don't know what you did and why you did what you did. And the next time you try to do it on your own, you don't understand why it didn't come out the same way because you never learned the science behind it. So my classes are all fun. So you're learning the science behind why something does that. Why did this do that? And at the end of the class, I'll see one of my students, I saw her family sitting at the table ready. I'm like, what are the shits? Oh, they're ready. They've made the table. Now they're ready for me. So after we finish cooking together, and that's an experience. I grew up in a time when my parents, my mother, my aunts, they would be cooking in the kitchen together when we would go visit my family. And I love seeing that. I just love watching them, the the pots clatter and the sizzle of the heat and the grease in the pan. I love hearing that. And now we're in a decade of pandemic where we don't get that anymore. So this is a way, an opportunity for us to connect together, have a camaraderie, because women uplift other women, and we get that camaraderie together, and we're able to have that moment again, and we're able to just enjoy ourselves in the kitchen again. We're able to laugh and to get those aha moments. And the students, once they make something, they realize, oh my goodness, I made this. One of my students, her mother would come over every Thursday of the class and wait and set the table. And she'd say, I feel like I'm eating out every day. She said, every time I come to your home on this day, I feel like I'm dining out in a restaurant, because that's the high quality food that I'm showing you how to cook for yourself. So I love my students' reactions. I love the wow, the factor that they get once they've made something with their hands, because I didn't do it. I just showed them how to do it. So my role is to not give the next person a fish, but to teach them how to fish.
Yeah. And I think that's what all the best teachers do is that, you don't want to, I know myself as a music teacher, that's my same approach too, is I always want to give people, I'm there to guide you. I'm not here to do it for you, because then if I'm doing it for you or giving you all the answers instead of showing you how to find the answers and showing you how to do it,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to get more out of it. So I think that's amazing that, and also that you've touched all these different people's lives in that way. And it's going back to sort of, I know we talked about how, when we were talking before, just you and I were talking about how you had a background with like life coaching and whatnot. And I remember having this sort of realization that it's like this is like an extension of that. Like this is something that you're impacting people's lives with what you're doing. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think that if anybody wants to be a part of this program, Is it online? Is it in person? Is it how to sort of how you kind of described most of it? Is it
Mhm.
just is there a certain um, time where people sign up, or is there a certain schedule of certain it lasts a few weeks or six
Yeah.
weeks or
So this is an online virtual culinary course,
mm-hmm,
but you get so much out of it, you don't even feel like you're online because you're. I feel that people are more comfortable when they're in their own natural environment and
mm-hmm,
when they can easily get things that they have. Because if I've worked in my past life as a chef instructor at a cooking school, and sure, it was amazing. You came together and we taught you how to cook, but you weren't in your kitchen. So now how do you get in your environment, your element, and do the same thing? So in my cooking course, we are live virtual Zoom. Is so you're coming, it's exact time. So whatever time we schedule, you're there, I'm there. I let you know in advance what you need for the class, if there's any pots and pans you need, but I also let you know beforehand how to set up your space, how to do proper mise en placing, putting things in the right order, how to make sure everything is set up where you don't have a big mess around you. And once the students come to me on Zoom, they're able to ask some questions one on one. It's not like watching a chef show, a TV show where you're just watching the chef, but you can't ask him a question. You hope that he tells you the answer as he's cooking, why he's doing something. But if something clicks and you're sitting there thinking, oh, I wonder why did this do that? Why did this do that the last time I was cooking something? Well, you can't ask him, but you can ask me because we're together, we're live. So
yeah.
if a person is not sure if they want to dive into my 8 weeks, then I allow them to step in with me in a 1 day. So I'm going to be November 26th having a 1 day cooking class. And we will be cooking together. So that gives them a taste of what it's like to uplevel their cuisine. It also gives them a taste of what it's like to work with me before diving into the 8 weeks cooking course.
Wow. So when is this? You said that. So this is sort of a almost like a demo class in a way. Would you describe it that way,
No,
or a one day?
it's a culinary event. So once again, just an extension of my 8 week cooking course. You are virtually cooking with me. You before we come to class, you go in, you sign in, you pay for the class. It's the Healthy Gourmet Cooking Chic Shop. And you sign in, you go on and you pay for it, you sign in and you come on in and you get all of your onboarding tools from your menu to what tools you need to get started. You get into my membership site and we you're ready to go through the cooking course with me. And once one day we with the cooking class is November 26th, 6 p.m. Eastern time, and we will be cooking together. And then after we're done cooking, I usually allow between 1.5 hours to two, depends on what we're making for each student. And once we're done, you get some more videos from me and giving you some more instruction, and you get an opportunity to talk to me one on one to tell me exactly what you're looking for, what you want to get out of the class, what you've learned, and then if you want to proceed and do the next 8 weeks with me. So yeah, it's a beautiful way to get your feet wet, so to speak. So what is this Chic Women Don't Diet lifestyle coaching thing about? So it gives you an opportunity to see what that's about and have some fun with me. November 26th.
November. Okay, so November 26th. And if people want to sign, is this something they would just sign up to sort of save their spot type of thing on your
Yes,
website?
yes. So on my website in the tabs, you'll see um, culinary and you'll see healthy. Under healthy or culinary, you'll see the class. So you'll look under culinary and healthy on the two tabs, and one of them is a 1 day cooking course, and the other one is my 8 week course. So whichever one they choose to sign up for. But for the November 26th, they definitely want to make sure they're in the healthy gourmet cooking.
Wonderful. That is amazing. So would that be the sort of the next thing for you, the next event for you, or what's next for you and in your
Yes,
program?
Yeah, so the next event for me is coming up November 26th. That is a Healthy Gourmet Cooking Chic Shop.
Okay.
And I'm really excited about that because I prepare a beautiful menu. And I'm really looking forward to sharing the menu. I'm looking forward to seeing some beautiful pictures, somebody else's Instagram of who's worked with me and what they, because how I cook, I want my students to cook the same way. So you walk away knowing how to plate your food and just make everything look amazing. And so yeah, that's the next step for me. And then after that, we're gonna the students after that will dive right into the 8-week cooking course. So the 8-week cooking course is all about the techniques and the spices and the herbs and how to really bring all the elements of what I talked about previously into your lifestyle and make dining chic and elegant and lifestyle for you. Whereas the one day is more of an introduction to cooking with me and my
Mm-hmm.
style of cuisine and how you can up level your cuisine. So that is hands on. You're working with me just like you would be with my other course.
That's amazing. And it gives people, like you said, it gives them a chance to sort of get a taste, get a bite of
Yes.
your course and your program. And when does the 8-week course start? When's your next one starting?
So the 8 weeks, that one will be starting after I'm taking a break in December, but that one will be starting January. So the
Okay.
beginning of the year is that when that will be starting. So I think people who come out of one will have an opportunity to sign up. But I there's each of my courses space is limited. I just find cozy works better for a lot of people because people can get their questions answered by me directly. So if they're interested, I would definitely recommend signing up and booking your space.
Got it. How much space how many people do you generally accept in each course?
I typically allow something where it will be cozy. People can answer a lot of questions. So typically up to about maybe 8 people.
Okay, wow. So that's, I'm sure that they'll fill up very, very quickly then.
Hmm.
So people, if you are interested in this and if, everything that she's been saying speaks with you, I would definitely recommend that you head on over to her website and sign up. So the class on the 26th, is that your master class or is
My
it something
master,
separate?
yes, a master class is something separate. So for my master class, if someone wants to sign up on my newsletter but it is a master class, and you understand my, you want to go a little bit deeper beyond this interview, then my master class will allow you to learn a little bit more from me from the wellness perspective, the self-care element, and the culinary as well. So you'll get an opportunity to sit down and listen to that master class as well. It's the teaching women how to lose weight, feel good in their skin, and have their chocolate mousse and wine at the same time.
Beautiful. And I mean honestly, like who wouldn't want to have your cake and eat it too? Literally. That's what I'm hearing right here. So yeah, so I just definitely I think that this has just been such a great show and I feel like you really have brought sort of so much light, so much enjoyment and happiness to this idea of eating, high quality food, of being mindful about how you're eating, about, really taking the time to create a work of art. Like every day we get a chance to be artists and create not only something that tastes good, but feels good and
Hmm.
looks good. And so I think that what you have in this program is something that is highly valuable. And I definitely think that anybody who's listening today, again, if you've connected with this, then stay connected. Stay
Hmm.
connected. Check out her website. Sign up for her master classes, and really experience what it's like to level up your food.
Yes, and the master class will definitely keep you connected to me. So anything that I'm doing, you would as soon as I release the 8 weeks, you would definitely know about it. So it helps to definitely be on my email list, which gets you through, you come through the master class.
Oh, perfect, perfect. So
Hmm.
make
So if
sure that
someone
you sign up for
forgets,
that. Yeah.
definitely.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh no, no,
Um,
I'm sorry.
And then your socials, I'm gonna put that down below here as well. So there's your social links at So Natural, and your IG is So Natural Wellness. And people can, and there you probably, I'm assuming you put all kinds of amazing Instagram food pics of all the food that you make.
Yes, and this I'm I'm still learning Instagram, so I'm sort of a newbie on Instagram, but yes, I am definitely trying.
Well, that's great. Well, I want to thank you again so much for coming, and it was amazing having you on here. And I definitely feel like I came away even today with some perspectives and some new information. So thank you again for sharing that with me and our guests. And definitely, you guys, like I said, check her out. Check out her website, and we will see you guys next time on our Magifest interviews. Have a wonderful night, everybody.